Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike, and today is the 21st of November, one step closer to December and hopefully the end of the year. So, if you give me a second just to catch up with a few things. Right, so what do we have planned for today? Well, first of all, we're going to take a look at what Cathie Wood has done at ARK Invest, and with their ETF application, it has been changed. We're going to take a look at inflows into crypto over the last few months, most notably Solana. Why is that bullish for Solana? I'm going to tell you. Then we're going to look at the Pyth airdrop, which happened or started yesterday. This is something that not many people know about, but you can claim it. And just to give you an idea, I claimed just over $1,100 yesterday for free. So make sure to stay around for that. We're then going to look at the top 3 AI coins, according to this expert. We're then going to look at exchange woe. We've got an article about an exchange which is currently being sued by the SEC, which makes it 3 on the SEC's hit list. We're going to go through that, why it matters to America and why it matters to crypto. Then we're going to finish with a little bit of light-hearted news to do with Ubisoft and Roblox. We've mentioned Ubisoft 3 times now in the last 4 weeks on this stream. And there has got to be something said now for whether Ubisoft are now going all in, are going all in on crypto. So we're going to have a look at that, and then if we've got some time, which we normally do, we're going to have a little bit of a quiz at the end of the show. So that's it, a packed show as always, but we try and break everything down as much as we can. We're not going to go too much. I'm going to mute this for a second. We're not going to go into too much technicals today. We're going to keep it fairly simple because we don't want to confuse too many newcomers. A few shout outs to those of you that are here. Tariq, good morning. Welcome to the stream. I can see you amongst the plethora of scam messages. Good morning, everybody. Solo Sky, good morning. It is a beautiful day indeed. It's nice to see you here. So it's nice to actually be able to read some messages. If Rabia could stop pasting the same thing into chat, that would be greatly appreciated. At some point, we are going to get people like you banned from the stream. The same with Binance user B5. Stop pasting absolute junk into chat. We are trying to have a civilized conversation here. So before we get any further, before we go into the news, as is customary, we're going to have a little look at the prices. Market cap, surprisingly, is up 1.1% in the last 24 hours at 1.42 trillion. The volume, again, is up 55 billion. That's to be expected. It's a Tuesday. So the Monday to Tuesday volume is always going to be higher than the Saturday and Sunday volume. Bitcoin dominance is now starting to really ramp up again. It's 51.6%. And Ethereum dominance is just coming up a tad as well. So that's where we are with the price action. Now, if we have a look at the 24-hour gainers and losers, there's not an awful lot up. A lot of the alts suffered yesterday. What I think happened was a lot of the money started to flow between different alts. So I think Bitcoin took a lot of liquidity. Obviously, BNB has pumped over the news in America that there might be some kind of deal. So BNB is in there. Obviously, things like ApeCoin and Clay, PancakeSwap, they're only up a few percentage points. They're not up an awful lot. So I don't think there's anything to write home about as far as the gainers, and I imagine there's going to be a few losers. Celestia, as I have been saying for a few days, I think since maybe Friday, Celestia is due a correction. Arweave is down 13%, Audi is down 10%. FTT token, I mean, I said to people, don't buy this. It's not a real coin. It's not attached to a real asset. The FTX exchange committed its wrongs and was shut down. And what we've had is this pump, and now we're starting to see the volume drop off. So if you were buying this token here, I'd strongly recommend getting out of your position in FTX. Again, there is no exchange behind this token. This is a utility token of the defunct FTX exchange. So I wouldn't be holding this token, but that's neither here nor there. So there's a few gainers, there's a few losers. I'm not going to carry on too much about this because we're going to run out of time as always. What we're going to do, we're going to get straight into the news about Cathie Wood. Now, I think I've mentioned her quite a few times on the channel. I am a huge fan of Cathie Wood. Cathie Wood is one of those people. She's intelligent, she's articulate, she really does get crypto, but not only just crypto, she gets technology. I've said before, she's had investments in all the big tech stocks, Tesla, even Coinbase, and ARK Invest have applied for their own ETF. There we go. Let me update the menu. There we go. So ARK Invest has updated its spot Bitcoin ETF application. Now, last week, there was a window of opportunity for the SEC to approve the ETFs. It didn't happen, but the markets haven't gone anywhere. And I've said this before, we are into the last 50 or 60 days, the countdown towards the ETF approval. Because as far as I'm aware, unless something changes, January the 10th is the deadline where the ETFs have to be approved, as far as I'm aware. Now, of course, that's quite nicely 3 or 4 months before the halving, which is going to happen in April or May time. So everything is going to be hunky-dory January, February, March time next year, if everything goes to plan. And as we know in crypto, it never really goes to plan. So the latest update is the third amendment to the ARK and 21 shares Bitcoin exchange traded fund prospectus since the firms first filed it in April 2023. On November the 20th, ARK Invest filed another amended prospectus for its spot Bitcoin ETF product, developed in collaboration with the European digital asset managers 21 Shares. If approved, ARK 21 Shares Bitcoin ETF will trade on the Chicago Board Options Exchange. Now, of course, we are all waiting for this, and one of the things that the SEC are doing, oh, there we go, the deadline is the January the 11th, whereas I thought it was January the 10th, so it's the very first 2 weeks of January. So overall, I think it's just a waiting game now. We're just waiting out to see what happens over the next couple of months. Are people going to start to front run the ETF? Are people going to start to front run the halving? I think they will, and I think we're already seeing that. So one interesting thing is they are sticking to in-kind creations redemptions, albeit in a hybrid model to minimize tax and spread issues. Semi-shocker, to be honest, but in a good way. Now, what he's talking about here is that there's 2 ways for this ETF to work. One of them is for the ETF to buy Bitcoin directly off the market. So you would deposit $100,000 and the exchange, so the ETF would buy the Bitcoin with that $100,000. That's one way to do it, and to me seems the most obvious. The other way to do it is to send in-kind deposits. So you could actually send Bitcoin to the ETF and they would hold it, and that causes all kinds of problems. So the SEC have been in discussions with the ETFs to say, we want you to have cash deposit ETFs. So people have to pay in dollars, pounds, euros, and then you buy the Bitcoin. That's the path they want to go down. Now, this application isn't going to follow that path. It's going to do its own thing, which is a kind of against what the SEC have asked for. However, as it says here, ARK have actively been amending their applications. Not all the Bitcoin ETF filers have amended their filings. So we've got 12. We've got 12 potential ETFs. And as I have said before, this is going to be like dropping one hell of a nuclear bomb on crypto when this happens, because the price is going to move. I know we have buy the rumor, sell the news. I know about all that. But this time, in this instance, it is different. And the reason it is different is because this is going to involve the actual buying of Bitcoin from the markets. And for all we know, and as I've alluded to over the last few weeks, I think it's already begun. I think BlackRock and Vanguard and the big tier one players, they've already been buying Bitcoin. That's why I think the Bitcoin price is staying at these levels. If you look at what happened yesterday evening when the SEC have sued this exchange, which we're going to talk about later, that hardly moved the Bitcoin price down. And all we're seeing is the bad news is being ignored, but all the good news is just shunting Bitcoin a little bit higher. So I don't think BlackRock and Vanguard and people like that, I don't think they're trading Bitcoin yet. I think they're buying it to hold. So this again shows to me that whatever short-term price volatility we're going to see, this is just, it's a ticking time bomb of approvals, of spot Bitcoin ETFs, of Bitcoin purchases. And I think we need to really kind of buckle down. There are some figures that I'm going to try and bring up probably tomorrow that will show you what effect the inflows of cash will have on Bitcoin. Because it's a bit, what you have to understand is, to move the Bitcoin price from 700 billion to a trillion, it doesn't require $300 billion worth of Bitcoin to be bought. It doesn't work that way, because every time you buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin, it puts the market cap up exponentially more than that $1 million. So for example, for every $1 million you buy, you will put the market cap up by $10 million, for example. So to move Bitcoin from 700 billion to 1 trillion, which is a 300 billion move, you might only need 15 to 25 billion dollars of new purchases to move that price. That's how it kind of works. So it's not one for one, and it never has been, because every time those purchases are made, they change the value of every single Bitcoin in the world. So if the price goes from 37 to 38,000, that's 1,000 times 19.5 million. That's what's added to the market. So we don't need an awful lot to move the market. We only need, as I said, 10, 20, 30 billion dollars in these ETFs combined, and the market is going to shunt up. And that's why in this instance, it is different. It is different because we're applying a new source of demand to an existing market. We've mentioned gold before and what happens with gold and how it pumps and after the gold ETF, and how it didn't stop pumping for a very long time. We could see something very similar with Bitcoin. So hold on to your hats, because this, I think, is going to move. Now, as I've shown you before, I'm not going to go into this again, but we're still in the same channel. We've been here now for 4 weeks. We're moving up. We're kind of still in this range. We haven't left this range, and as far as I can see, we're going to stay here for another little while. I think today is going to be a potentially green day. I think we could see 37.6, or maybe even have a run at 38,000. So I'm not going to go on again over the Bitcoin chart. Suffice to say, we're still in the same range. We're still bullish on everything. And as far as I can see, nothing's going to change my mind in the next 24 hours. We do have Chairman Powell's notes on Tuesday. Actually, I think it's tomorrow. We have his notes coming out. We're going to see what he thinks about where the markets are and where he thinks we're all going to be going in the next few months, because inflation is coming down. massively. Once inflation starts to come down, that's when taxes can be eased, interest rates can be eased, and more money can be spent. And if you're a politician like Joe Biden and you want to win the next election, what do you want to do? You want to head into 2024 with lower interest rates, lower taxes, more money in people's pockets, the feel-good factor, recession is a thing of the past, no inflation, people can buy food again, vote Joe Biden. That's going to be their policy in the beginning part of 2024. So everything's lining up for us. So don't be swayed by short-term movements. To, 2% up, 5% down, 3% up, 6% down. It's neither here nor there. Now, Solana, this is one of the things where I was saying a few weeks ago, potentially the price of Solana is being manipulated by the FTX sell-off. And I was saying that it's surprising how the price of Solana is pumping a year after the FTX collapse, but the FTX token is also pumping, so what's going on? Well, this kind of tries to answer some of those questions. Now, institutional investment shows this, the coin shares and different stats companies show you where the markets are and where the money is coming from. And one of the most important ones, which we've had a few times now on the show, is the inflows and outflows on a monthly basis. And there's normally a chart here. So this is normally broken down by the currency. In this example, it's simply got the amounts of money flowing in. So let's go through the start of the article first. So CoinShares says institutional crypto products saw heavy inflows across the board last week for the 8th consecutive week. CoinShares finds that institutional investors are continuing to up their allocations to crypto, with Solana investment products leading the way. Digital asset investment products saw inflows totaling $176 million last week, in a continuation of consecutive weekly inflows that has now lasted 8 weeks, bringing year-to-date inflows to $1.32 billion. So this is new money. This isn't swishing around money where the alts dip and that money goes into Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin hits 38,000, people sell and go into alts. This is new money coming to crypto. And as you can see, it does go in cycles. Are we coming to the end of another cycle, or is this going to be a quiet December where it drops off more than likely, maybe a quiet January, maybe a quiet start to the year, and then we kick on again in February? That would give us this 8-week lull, and potentially that's where we could be going. The inflows remain well behind 2020 and 2021, which saw 10.7 billion and 6.6 billion respectively. But this is fine. This is to be expected. You've got to remember where we are in the cycle. We are at the beginning. This is the spring. This is the very early spring of the next bull run. What they're talking about here in 2020 and 21, they're talking about the majority of the previous bull run. We've come out of the most brutal bear market we've ever seen, and now we're starting to see money starting to flow in. And when we see the ETFs and the halving happen, 2024, in my opinion, is going to blow away the 10.7 billion and the 6.6 billion. It's going to blow it out the water. We could see multiples of those in 2024 and 2025. So just bear that in mind. So according to CoinShares, much of the trading volume surge in crypto could be traced to exchange-traded product investors, ETPs. King Crypto Bitcoin led the way. Solana was second. Obviously, Ethereum is in there, Litecoin, and Cardano. I still don't know why people hold so much Litecoin. I really don't understand it. I know we have a few people watching who are massive fans of Litecoin, but not for me. Not for me. Now, let's have a quick look at the Solana chart. We haven't looked at this for probably since Saturday, so we'll have another look and see where we are. Right. Excuse me, let me just load the chart. Shovo user, the quiz, as you can clearly see on the right hand side, is at the end of the show. So no point in asking for a quiz, my friend, when we're halfway through the show. If you want to just come for the quiz, come back in 25 minutes time. So don't ask for the quiz. Why am I going to carry out a quiz halfway through the show? I'm not going to, am I? So come back in 25 minutes time and then you can partake in the quiz. There's no point in asking for it now. So this is the Solana chart. Let's zoom in a little bit further to show you what is potentially on the books. What's going on with TradingView? So I don't know whether this is clear head and shoulders, and I don't know whether we're going to see something like this happen, where we move down to $43 or something like that, or whether it's not going to play out and we're going to move, or start to move up. We've had a couple of decent runs on Solana, and what I would do is I would consider where we are in the market and consider where we are with regards to, are we going to keep this massive momentum from Solana? Look at where we were. We were down in the doldrums. We've had this huge run up. We've kind of almost, well, we've almost 3x'd in a period of 6-8 weeks. So do we think we should have a cooling off period? I do think we can. However, I've got my lines in the chart of where I think we can run to in the next run up, and we've got $78 and we've got $104 for Solana. We also have this line down here which coincides. I won't go all the way back, but we have 3 lines, as you can see, and we drew these, I think we drew these on Saturday, and these lines don't really correspond to the volume error or anything like that. These are previous price points. Now, as you can see on this bottom line here, this is at $55.96. If we zoom in to this price point, look at what has happened in the past. We have literally sat on top of this price point. Now, these are previous levels of support and resistance, and history goes a long way when you're looking at coins like Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Not so much when we look at pies in a minute, because it shows you where people can find support. So what I think is going to happen, I think we're going to come up to about this level here, which is $58, $59. That's where there's another big area. I don't think we're going to go up there anytime in the near future, but we could go up towards $59, simply because we've come off this beautiful line here, which, as you can see, it's been resistance here. It kind of was resistance all this area here, and if we go all the way back, which I'm not going to do, you'll see that $55 was support in the past. So bear that in mind when you're looking at prices. You don't just look at the fib levels, you don't just look at the RSI, you don't just look at a couple of things. You try and expand, go and look at the history of the coin, look where Bitcoin uses its lines and Ethereum, and then try and see if there's any reason, look for patterns. Have we bounced off $55 before in the past? Yes, we have. Have we used it as resistance in the past? Yes, we have. Therefore, whether it be psychological or whether it be technical, those are good areas of support. And we have this huge area here to play around in. So I think we're going to come up a little bit. I think today we're going to have a bit of a pump back up. Whether we're going to get to $60 or not, I don't know. I mean, that's back up here. That would be some wedge to get back up here in a day. But we could, if we ignored the head and shoulders, and maybe we shouldn't, but if we did ignore the head and shoulders, maybe we can come up like this. But if we do follow the head and shoulders, then we are going to come down to $42. So they're the 2 directions for Solana. If I was looking to invest in Solana right now, again, with lots of things, I'd dollar cost average in. We don't know which direction it's going to go in. We don't know where the news is going to come from to bring it down or pump it up. Maybe Chairman Powell's notes are amazing on Wednesday. We don't know. So what I would do, if I wanted to get a position in Solana, I would dollar cost average in starting from today, next Wednesday, or next Tuesday, sorry, the Tuesday after, a dollar cost averaging. But if you want some free Solana, I'm now going to show you an airdrop, which isn't a scam airdrop, it's a real airdrop, and it's for a real project. It already has a $500 million market cap, and it's called Pyth. And it only started yesterday afternoon. The airdrop, this is only started yesterday afternoon, and I've claimed this already, and I've recommended to people to claim this, and it's on multiple blockchains. So if you've ever used one of the blockchains connected to this project, you're going to want to listen very carefully for the next 5 minutes, because this could make you some money. Now, like I said, I claimed the airdrop yesterday at 4 o'clock, and I sold it for about 18 SOL. So it's legitimate. I'm not going to give you any links to it, because that's not my job, and I don't want to give you the wrong link. I don't want you to click on something. But what I am going to do this afternoon is I'm going to make a video about it. And in the video, I'm going to give you the official link to the official Pyth website, and from there, you can go and claim the airdrop, or see if you're eligible for the airdrop. So Pyth airdrop put $77 million in the wallets of crypto users. Upstart Crypto Exchange Backpack also airdropped the Solana-based Pyth token to tens of thousands of new users as a reward. And there is a very pretty picture of a child with sunglasses and what looks like euros in his hand. DeFi Oracle's network Pyth enjoyed a strong debut for its much anticipated token airdrop on Monday, quickly nabbing an initial market cap of $765 million. Obviously, it's now fallen down to 457, but that's irrelevant. It's still a decent sized project, this one. I mean, we're not talking about a $10 million dollar micro cap. We're talking about a sizable project. Upon Pyth's launch this morning, the token began trading at 53 cents and it fell to 28 cents, but it's come back up. It's now at 35 cents or something like that. The token has seen over 87 million in trading volume since it's launched. And the platform that you're watching us on, you should be able to claim on that platform. Or not claim, sorry. You should be able to trade it on that platform. So wherever you are, you should see Pyth as a tradable token on there. So I am covering a token that is available to you as we speak. So the initial circulating supply of 1.5 billion tokens, I think that, it says it here, the total supply is 10 billion. Only 1.5 has been released. As you know, if you've watched me before, a small circulating supply compared to the total supply is a red flag for me, because it means there's going to be massive inflation on the token. So if you hold 1,000 tokens today, when the rest of these tokens are released, there's going to be 8 times as many tokens, or 7.5 times as many tokens in 5 or 6 years' time as there are today. And that's going to put downward pressure on the price. And that will then, of course, damage the price of the coins in your pocket. So that's something to bear in mind. However, they offered up to 250 million tokens through the airdrop to reward early users, effectively putting $77 million worth of the crypto token in the pockets of these users. So, like I say, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to read the entire thing, it's irrelevant, but this is the website. I'm not going to leave a link to it. That's the important thing. I'm not going to leave a link on here on the stream, because I don't want the link to be mistyped. I don't want the link to be hacked or whatever. So I'm just going to leave it here. Pyth Network have done an airdrop, and you can go through their website and you can claim it. If you don't want it, you want to sell out of it like I did yesterday. Like I said, I sold it for $1,100. If you don't want this, send it to the exchange you're on right now and sell it on there, because that will probably be the best rate you're going to get. So it's Pyth Network. You can claim this airdrop. There's no sneaky gas fees or anything like that. I claimed it in a matter of 20 seconds, and then I sold it in a matter of about 2 minutes. It is legitimate, and I'm not sponsored to tell you about this. I just claimed it myself, and I know loads and loads of people won't know about this. Now, how do you be eligible? If you have transacted on some of the chains that Pi Network is part of, then you'll be able to claim the tokens. Some people can't. The majority of people I've seen can. So I will drop a video on this after the stream so everybody knows what to do. I'm going to leave all the links. I'm going to explain the project. I don't know another way of doing this. I'm not going to go through everything on the stream because it's going to take too long. And I don't want to leave any links because I don't want to have the links mistyped, like I said. So the only way for me to do this properly is to make a video about it. But you, by all means, go to Google yourself, type in Pi Network, and go and have a look yourself. But for those of you that don't want to do that, wait for my video. I am going to post it into places. I'm going to post it on X. I'm going to post it on Telegram. So you can go and watch it, and I will leave the official links on that video. But as I said, this isn't a sponsored video. I've claimed the token myself, and it's something which many years ago, maybe even 7 years ago now, 6-7 years ago, if you held Bitcoin was the big one. If you held Bitcoin, you got a lot of airdrops over the time. All the Bitcoin chains, all the splits from Bitcoin, you were airdropped. Try to think of the names of them. There was Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that, and you were airdropped those tokens. And of course, what I didn't do at the time was sell them straight away. And with most airdrops, not all of them, because obviously we've seen it with BNB, the price has gone up on BNB dramatically. Most airdrops will drop dramatically from the price. And if you can see when the token was launched, this is the Gate.io chart. We fell from 74 cents, 50 cents, around that. We've come all the way down now to 35 cents. And like I said, yesterday I would have sold, I think I sold about here. So I sold here, price has come down, it's recovered. We're pretty much sold at the price it is today. And to be honest, I'm not really interested in holding too many tokens. It's about risk management. It's about having a portfolio that covers the coins that you're interested in, which I'm going to go on to next. We're going to talk about AI tokens. But I think it's important that I stress that this is free to you. You shouldn't have to pay for this airdrop. And if you're eligible, in my opinion, I would go and sell it and put your money into Solana, put it into whatever you want. And if you do it through the exchange, you don't have to worry about swapping it from the Solana blockchain to anything else. So bring it to your platform, sell it for USDC, and then move it into whatever you want. Ethereum, Cardano, XRP, whatever. So now we're going to move on to this expert's top 3 AI tokens. And we covered Fetch a few days ago, which is one of my favorites, along with Singularity, Ajax. I talk about them quite a lot on here. I like them. And this has been written, I don't know if this is Sahil's article or whether he's interviewed somebody, but he goes through his top 3 AI tokens. Let me just update the menus so we are all up to speed. Let me see if there's any comments in the chat. So much spam. I can't read anything. Solo Sky, yeah, it's honestly, I wouldn't recommend it if I hadn't done it myself. And like I said, yesterday I did it, I sold it, I've got the Solana in my Phantom wallet. At some point I'm going to move it to an exchange and probably stake it or just keep it on an exchange. But it's just worth 5 minutes of your time to go and claim. And secondly, there is another airdrop, which is Jupiter, or Juppy it's called. That will be happening next week or the week after. So more than likely, there is another website where you can check your eligibility. More than likely, if you are eligible for Pive, you will get Jupiter. A lot of people are eligible for Jupiter but not Pive. So Shovo, I'm not doing the quiz. We're nowhere near the quiz. So let's just carry on and we'll go through these AI picks. So Render. Now Render, I don't know if Render is a fully AI token. I know what they do and I know how it's worked, but I'm not sure it's 100% AI. So Render has done incredibly well. I know AJ Writes Crypto. He has been trading Render for the last few weeks and making an absolute fortune out of it. So Render is a good pick. It's gone up 72%. You've got to be careful as well with a lot of these tokens. You have to be careful that you don't buy the top. So with AI, it's in the news. Why is it in the news? Because Sam Altman has been fired by the board from OpenAI. They fired him, so it's put AI in the spotlight. We spoke yesterday about Charles Hoskinson offering him a job to work on an open language model. So be careful. Like I say a lot of the times, a lot of different subcategories of crypto will have their time in the sunshine. So you will have sand and mana will pump at the same time. AI tokens will pump at the same time. DeFi tokens will pump at the same time. Don't FOMO in to a market simply because it's already gone up 72% at this stage. If you want to accumulate Render or Graph or Fetch or whatever, DCA in over a long period of time so you build up your position slowly. Don't FOMO in. It's, you know, like this says, it's gone from $2.10 to $3.60. There is no reason at this moment in time why that token couldn't go back down to $2, and then you're left holding a $3.60 token, which in the bull run might be a great price, and you might be able to get, you might be able to get out of your position at $20, $30. You've made a great bag of cash. But look, compare that to Bitcoin. Bitcoin could retrace from 37,000 to 30,000 or 34,000. That's only a 10% drop because Bitcoin is so big. You look at Render, we're talking about a 50% drop. It's had a 72% gain. There's no reason it can't have a 50% drop, because it can leave the news, and once it leaves the news, the liquidity leaves Render, people will start to sell off and the price will come down. That can happen, and that's why when anything is flavor of the month, it's a good idea to not buy into those projects. It's a good idea to wait, which is why we try and catch the quiet tokens. So if if you've watched us for a while, we have talked about Graph, we have talked about Fetch and Singularity. We've been talking about them for the last 6 months, but we haven't really talked about them once they started to really pump, because we're just showing you coins that have already gone up 150%. So then you go and buy into those coins and the natural retracement happens and you're left with a 30% deficit. You're down 30% on those tokens, and that's why we try not to do it so much. But from the point of view of showing you the tokens that we think are going to do well, we can't just avoid them completely. So when an article like this comes up, I have to kind of go through it. The Graph. I'm not personally a huge fan of the Graph. I think they've got a lot of competition. I do think it's going to go up because the price has come down so far. But I do think that the Graph isn't, again, it's not one of my top picks, but it's one of these people's top picks. So it is something for you to go and look at. But again, it's up 113%. Now, one strategy you could have with this, if you go and research Render and you go and research Graph and you say, you know what, I need some AI tokens in my portfolio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to CoinMarketCap or my exchange that I'm on, and I'm going to follow those tokens, the price action of those tokens. I'm going to follow the Graph, I'm going to follow Render, and I'm going to follow Fetch AI. That's what I'm going to do. And wait for the price to start sliding and wait for it to retrace just a little bit. That's what I would do. Now, Fetch, I have held Fetch for months. I don't even know when I bought Fetch, maybe January or February time, when we were really getting into it. Could have even been maybe even September, October last year I started buying Fetch. It was when it first came out anyway, or when it first came to the public eye. So Fetch is at 53 cents. People are talking about it hitting $1. It could very well hit $1, but look at the price action we've had on it. It's been insane. We've managed to catch up. This entire slide of 6 months has been caught up in a month, and that makes me think we're going to retrace. However, I like Fetch, and I think it solves a real world problem. That's why I like Singularity. Singularity is more of a cool one, which I've mentioned before. I'm not going into that. Fetch solves real world problems. It creates, or it has, decentralized bots that you can pay those bots to carry out tasks. Then the people that host the bots, they get rewarded from those bots being utilized. Fetch gets rewarded by taking a percentage of the transaction, and that big company gets all the data it needs from the decentralized AI system. So it's all a really nice kind of ecosystem that works really well together. So of the three, Fetch I'm a big fan of. Second place, I would put Render. I think Render is decent, and Graph for me is just, I mean, I know I talk about sexy and not sexy a lot, and I talk about liking Link and Quant and XRP. They're involved in payment solutions. Graph isn't. Graph will run in the next bull run. Everything's going to run in the next bull run if it's a decent project. But of the three, in order, I would have Fetch, Render, and then Graph. They would be in the order that I would look at them in. And then the only one missing from this, as I've said before, is Singularity. So make sure to check out AI tokens, but don't FOMO in. That's the key. Don't see it going up 150% and then buy in. Maybe bookmark the tokens and then maybe wait for a price retracement. There's a good chance, I could be wrong, and these Fetch tokens could be $5 in 6 months' time, and we're never going to see it again at that price. But you just move on to the next tokens. That's how I would play this, but don't FOMO in. It's the worst thing you can do, and it just means you're the exit liquidity for everybody else. That's another way to look at it. Right, I'm scrolling through all the spam. Malihat. Right, so I can't see any comments. So what we're going to do is move on to talk about exchange woes. Now, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to mention the name of this exchange because we're currently streaming on different exchanges and it would be fairly rude of me to mention the names. But I want to bring this up because I think it's really important. And that is that no matter which exchange it is, the SEC doesn't care. It's going after them all. And for me, I have a massive issue with that. So the United States is suing this exchange, charging the platform with operating as an unregistered securities exchange, broker-dealer and clearing agency. The Commission put out a release today revealing the suit and its charges. According to the SEC's complaint, since September 2018, they've made hundreds of millions of dollars unlawfully. Now it mentions a breakdown down here, and one of the coins it doesn't mention in its order is XRP, because obviously XRP has won its case against the SEC. So this is another indication that XRP is now a legitimate token in the US, as is Bitcoin. I believe Ethereum isn't mentioned as much, but things like Cardano and Solana, they're always mentioned as being securities, which I find absolutely unbelievable. The SEC also complains about commingling of funds, poor record keeping. The business model is unlawful. Now, I mean, you don't have to, again, that's why I've called it exchange woes, because this isn't about an individual exchange. This is about the battle that exchanges are having around the world. And the problem is, it's a little bit like the medieval witch hunts. Whereas they accuse you of being a witch. They tie a rope, tie things, and then they throw you in the river. And if you sink, you weren't, and if you float, you are. I mean, it's the same thing again. It's a witch hunt against exchanges. Now, we stream on exchanges, which, as far as I've checked out, they are legitimate exchanges. We wouldn't stream on them if we didn't believe they were legitimate exchanges. But the issue is that they get tarred with this brush by the SEC. Now, there's slander, and then there's slander. And the SEC, what they do is they will issue this writ or order, whatever they call it in America, and then they will go into a verbal diatribe against that exchange. So what they'll do is they'll accuse them of being guilty before it's got to a court of law. And they've done it with the 2 exchanges that were taken out in June. They've done it with this one. They threaten them, they take them to court, and then they say, well, look at what they do. They don't do this and they don't do that. Well, that's your opinion. You're saying that. Why are you saying that? It should be in court. This conversation you're having with the press should be in court. And the reason I'm bringing this up, and the reason I'm so passionate about it, is exchange are just getting blasted by everybody, left, right, and centre, because the SEC cannot do its job. And the 2 things we talk about every day, regulation and adoption. They are not providing exchanges with the ability to be regulated. And all they're doing is saying, you've broken the law, you've broken the law, you've broken the law. Constantly saying the same thing about exchanges and not giving the exchanges any opportunity to becoming regulated. And the reason they won't let them become regulated is as soon as they're regulated, they can take on retail clients. And they don't want that. And it's an absolute disgrace what they're doing, and they'll go after everybody. If you've ever had an American customer, if you've ever advertised in America, if you've ever done this, they'll come after you. And some exchanges, which I'm not going to mention the names of, they're going to shut down. I think they're closing down at the beginning of December because they cannot go up against the SEC, because it costs you tens, if not hundreds of millions to defend yourself in a court of law, and it is completely wrong. So don't listen to anything they say when it comes to crypto. I think they are basically going after them with this tar brush, and they're just tarring them before they've gone in front of a judge. And when they do get in front of the judge finds them innocent. Just look at what has happened yesterday. The SEC has gone to another one of the exchanges and says, you know what? If you pay us $4 billion, we'll make it all go away. I'm sorry? So if this exchange pays the SEC $4 billion, the SEC will make the court case go away. I don't understand how that works, because in my head, and I can't say the words because we're on certain streams, but that doesn't seem very moral or legal to me. So there we go. Now, last thing, we're going to run out of time. Ubisoft is bringing Rayman Captain Laserhawk NFT avatars to the sandbox. Why is this important to me? It's important to me because this is the 3rd article we've written about Ubisoft. And Ubisoft was one of the very first companies we spoke about when we started streaming 18 months ago. Ubisoft was one of the companies which was trying to move into crypto, and it was basically cancelled by the gaming community. The gaming community was like, we're not going to play your games. We're going to, we're going to call you mean names on Twitter, and we're going to do all these horrible things to you. So Ubisoft took a step back and went, okay, now it's not the right time. Now they've come again, and they've done 3 things. They've signed a deal with IMX, Immutable X. They have signed another deal to create NFTs as part of another project. And finally, they're going to put some of their assets, or their IP, whatever you want to call it, into the sandbox. I'm sure it mentioned Roblox as well somewhere. I've called it Ubisoft Roblox. So Rayman and the characters from Beyond Good and Evil are joining the sandbox with a collection based on Ubisoft's new Netflix series. Looks an awful lot like Minecraft sandbox. Assassin's Creed maker Ubisoft is arguably the most active major video game publisher playing in the blockchain world today. Now the firm is expanding its reach even further by launching another set of NFT avatars to the metaverse game The Sandbox. And I imagine that lady there is talking about it with a very... I want one of these lights for our streams, so that will probably be the next purchase we make. Totally irrelevant, but there we go. A total of 1,866 unique player avatars will be released via NFTs on Polygon, an Ethereum scaling network, and the collection includes renditions of classic Ubisoft action hero Rayman, as well as Jade and Pale, heroes of the cult classic game Beyond Good and Evil. Most of the avatars have a futuristic cyberpunk-esque vibe similar to that of the show. So why is this more good news? It's just more adoption. You have a gaming studio working with Netflix, a gaming studio working with Sandbox, a gaming studio working with Immutable X. It's all starting to become mainstream. As I say quite a lot of the time, it's nowhere then everywhere at once. And that's the motto that I will go with to my grave, because that's what crypto is going to be. Before we know it, people are going to be playing games with NFTs that they hold in their wallets. And maybe there's going to be some kind of wallet that can't get hacked anymore. Maybe it's on a private blockchain. Who knows? But the point of this is that Ubisoft didn't give up. And I think they're going to get a lot of the Japanese development houses as well. They're going to have first mover advantage over companies that turn their backs on the metaverse and Web3 gaming and NFTs and everything like that. So kudos to Ubisoft. I want to put it in because although I'm not a fan of NFTs, I think they are a race to zero, a waste of money and everything else. I do think that there is a future where they're going to get it wrong. They're going to get it wrong with Sandbox. They're going to get it wrong with IMX. They're going to get all these things wrong. But at some point, it's going to click and it's going to work. And that is then going to help the entire gaming industry. And we're potentially going to have a new platform where all the UIs work. Maybe it's a centralized platform, which I know many people won't like, but a centralized platform which stops the scams, which stops the NFTs being stolen and things like that. But for me, massive respect to Ubisoft to stick at the idea of going into Web3. So what we're going to do now is, if you bear with me, we are going to go back and look at prices. We're going to say goodbye to one of our platforms that we stream on. So I'm going to put the end screen on for 5 seconds while I turn them off, and then when I come back we will do a 10-minute quiz.